Hey guys, this is Mike Mahaffey, the old bastard BJJ guy, here for BJJ Mental Models. Back in my day, we had to walk uphill in the snow both ways to get to the academy just to learn some crappy technique from a random purple belt. You kids have it so easy because now you can just subscribe to BJJ Mental Models Premium and get tons of great audio courses to learn new techniques, enhance your mindset, and entertain yourself. You can even get personalized rolling reviews from some of your favorite BJJ Mental Models coaches, including me. It's like having your own seminar, you spoiled little whippersnappers. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe to BJJ Mental Models Premium right now, get off my lawn, and go train.
Hey, welcome to BJJ Mental Models. I'm Steve Kwan. BJJ Mental Models is your guide to a conceptual and intelligent jiu-jitsu approach. And in this week's mini episode, we're going to talk about a concept that you have almost certainly heard about, you have almost certainly had explained to you, but I'm hoping that maybe I can wrap a bit of nuance around it and talk a little bit about why it's helpful, but also why it's not as universal as you might be led to believe. That is the idea of inside channel control as opposed to outside channel control. A lot of people use different names for this. You will sometimes hear people talk about inside control or inside position. I don't like those terms because I find them a bit vague. They can also be easy to misunderstand when someone is speaking verbally. Like, are we talking about inside control or are we talking about inside control? It can be hard to know exactly what people are saying sometimes with something that has a possible double meanings. So I like to use the terminology inside channel control, which means basically I try to occupy the space on the inside between my opponent's weapons. So as an example, an underhook would be inside channel control because I'm going to the inside of your arm. A whizzer would be an example of outside channel control, where I wrap around the outside. Similarly, if we're talking about legs, single leg X guard would often be an example of inside channel control because I'm occupying the space between your legs. Same with regular X guard. However, something like outside hook guard, sometimes called De La Riva guard, would be an example of outside channel control because the control mechanism is on the outside of the person's leg. So I've given some examples here that have illustrated that sometimes you go inside, sometimes you go outside. Neither one is good or bad. And that might kind of run contrary to the advice that you've received in the past because coaches often tell you, go for the inside, go for the inside. And that is often good advice, but it's not always, and it's not a rule that you have to follow all the time. Things like De La Riva guard are an example of this. Closed guard is another example. If I play closed guard against you, I'm taking the outside channel. I'm wrapping my legs around your body. So let's talk a little bit about the differences between going to the inside channel versus going to the outside channel, why you would do one, why you would do the other, but also why people talk so favorably about the inside channel as if it's better, because there is a reason why we discuss it so much. So first, let's talk about strategies that take the inside channel. So again, we're talking about underhooks, or if I'm playing butterfly guard, getting my feet between your feet. Also, if I'm playing butterfly guard, getting my head underneath your head. These would be examples of taking the inside channel. The benefit to doing this is I'm closing the distance with you and I'm getting so close to you that it's going to be hard for you to fight effectively. If you've ever played against a good butterfly player, especially in the gi where they can grab your fabric, you've probably felt this where the person is in so close and so tight to you that there's just not much you can do with your arms and your legs to fight them. And some of your natural responses, like trying to stand up and get out of there, they can make things worse because now you're exposing your legs. So the power of the inside channel is that just in terms of mechanical efficiency, you're getting in close, right? Sometimes they will say that the shortest path between two objects is a straight line. With the inside channel, you're just going right in there, right? You're getting in as close as you possibly can. And by getting in so close, you create a distance where you can still fight effectively, but the other person will struggle to fight effectively because they are so close to you. This is also a great strategy against larger opponents, which is always a topic of interest in jiu-jitsu, because when you are much smaller than the person, you may find it easier to get on the inside, and when you do, it negates a lot of their weapons, like their strength advantage, because they can't really attack you effectively with their arms or their legs if you're really on the inside of them. The other thing too with the inside channel is that it tends to require a lot less energy to play. Again, I mentioned earlier, with the inside channel, you're often going straight towards the person. You're trying to get right onto the inside. You don't have to do a lot of movement to do that. And so for grapplers who are older or slower, the inside channel approach can be desirable because it's efficient. Now that said, it's not the only way to play. There are a lot of examples of taking the outside channel, right? An example would be with the underhook, I have inside channel control on you. But if you turn that into a whizzer, now you have outside channel control on me. And really, it kind of looks like the same position, right? To an untrained person, the difference between an underhook and a whizzer is really hard to detect. And it's also really hard to explain, honestly. The difference really is, are you at an angle where you can control the other person more than they can control you? At certain angles, when you have an underhook, you can get around the person, you can stay out of range of their weapons. That's going to benefit you. But if the person with the overhook is able to clamp down on your arm, they can start manipulating your body structure and make it hard for you to turn to face them. Now they've got a whizzer, and suddenly that position benefits them. So often, both inside and outside channel control can be completely valid. It really depends on who's got more body leverage over the other person. Now let's talk about the outside channel. For a long time, we were all told go for the inside channel, but if you looked around, you could see these examples of people doing the opposites. I'm going to cite Lachlan Giles and Margot Ciccarelli as two people who do a lot of going around the outside. And you will often see this in the gi especially, and we'll talk a little bit about why in a second. So if you're playing a game that uses things like outside hook / De La Riva guard, and then you do a matrix back take from there, that kind of stuff is attacking around the outside channel. Rather than going between their legs, you're trying to go around them. Now, the downside to going around them is it's more distance for you to travel. It's going to be more work. And that means that you need to have a certain set of attributes to do this. It is challenging to go from De La Riva guard to a matrix onto someone's back. You are traveling more distance than if I just try to butterfly myself underneath you. But does that mean that it doesn't work? No, absolutely not. You can go around the outside. You just need to be aware that it might require more energy expenditure. It might be easier if you have more flexibility or you're smaller, but it absolutely does work. And so a decision that every grappler needs to make is, what is more important to me? The efficiency of taking the inside channel or my skill level at taking the outside channel? If you are really good at playing the outside game, then by all means, there's no problem with doing that. The other thing to point out too is that in the gi, the outside channel is often a bit easier to control and maintain because you've got so many more handles. So if I am going around the outside of your legs to your back or going around the outside of your arms, then I can hold onto the fabric and that can prevent you from turning or moving or altering the angle to make that hard for me. So you will often see in the gi that people do stuff like this because being able to hold the person in position by their clothes makes it easier to travel the distance to the outside. Another thing that's probably worth pointing out, this is something that Lachlan Giles once told me, is that you need to make sure that when you're building a guard game, that all of your guards play nicely together. And an example of that is the distance between inside to outside. As an example, if I am playing butterfly guard and I want to chain that into single leg X guard, that's relatively easy to do because these are two inside channel guards. But it's often going to be more challenging to travel from an inside guard to an outside guard. And that's just because there's more body distance to travel. It's not impossible, it is doable, but you just have to bear in mind that you need to have the right grips to do so. And this matters very much because when you're playing guard, you want to be connected with your opponent at all times. And so if you are traveling from an inside to an outside guard or vice versa, you need to make sure that you've got some grips or control so that your opponent just doesn't completely disengage when you do that. So there you go, a little mini lecture on inside versus outside channel control. Neither is right or wrong. People often talk more about inside channel control because it is efficient. It's probably going to be easier if you're slower, if you get older. It's also great for smaller people. So I think it's important that everyone have a good inside game, but don't take that to mean that there's something wrong with outside channel control or that it doesn't work. It absolutely does work. It might require certain attributes. It might require more energy to play. But that said, if you've got the gas tank, then you can make it work. So there you go, inside and outside channel control. Really important concept to understand in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I hope you found this useful. There's more mini episodes like this in our feed. You can get everything we make at bjjmentalmodels.com. That's where you'll find all episodes of the podcast, both the full-length podcast and also these mini episodes, as well as being able to join our newsletter and BJJ Mental Models Premium. I'll put a link in the show notes, but I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you in the next episode.